What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Picks and Roll DFS. We're breaking down tonight's best WNBA plays. Big shout out to Betr, where you can get $30 free on a $10 deposit using code DIME. And Outlier, the best research tool in the game. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can keep building this roll together. Quick recap of yesterday. We didn't sweep, going 1 for 2 or 1 and 2 on free picks. But that's why we stay disciplined with the bankroll and keep stacking those plus EV spots. We had Chelsea Gray kill our prop pretty early in the game, and then Tina Charles so close. Even though we lowered the points amount, still missed it by 1 point, which is so frustrating. And then, thankfully, Angel Reese missed reliable, missed double-double, missed me-bounds, got that double-double for us. If only Tina Charles got that extra point. But it also shows how volatile the WNBA can be at times. You can use all the data, and sometimes the plays just don't go your way. Even on PrizePicks yesterday, they dropped Asia Wilson's prop and still didn't hit. So, as you can see, no matter what, anything can happen. That's why the bankroll management is key. And speaking of discipline, today's bankroll tip is simple. Don't chase. If you had a losing day yesterday, stick to the same unit size. Over time, the edge adds up, and that's how you build the roll. Again, use code DIME on Betr to start with that free $30 boost. All right, let's get into our first play for today. We have Gabby Williams, higher than 8.5 points. So the line was originally set, as you can see here on the right. It opened up at 9.5. Within 4 minutes, so many bets were placed in which they propped that bet up to 10.5. Now we can look at those rates and kind of see the difference. So at 9.5, you can see she's hitting that at a 60% rate, 6 out of the 10 last games, averaging and a median of around 10. Then it moved up to that 10.5. Which is tough because we just mentioned that median and average is around 10. So if it's at that 10.5, you're usually going to get caught kind of like that Tina Charles play yesterday with that 0.5, right? So that's where you get a little bit cautious with that play. And then if you look at the lines across major platforms and books, you see that Hard Rock has us at a plus 100. It's only minus 102 at FanDuel. So this is where you can get a little cautious, and this is why I chose to drop this play down to over 8.5 points, because then all you see is green. She's hit this line 9 out of her 10 last games for a 90% rate. Last 20, 16 out of 20 for an 80% rate. And then those that she didn't, this was a close game. Some solid matchups there. But you can see that these games, Washington was twice, so they kind of got a number. You can see that these seem like more anomalies or outliers in comparison to the rest of the points that she scored throughout the season. We can also see that for this game, Indiana is not the best defense, especially in terms of giving up points to forwards. They rank 4th worst in points allowed to forwards, giving up 33.2 per game. We can see that right here. Now, this is all like a lot of the Minnesota games, and not every single forward within the same game are all going to hit their lines. That's just not going to happen. So that's why that data kind of looks odd with all those X's, because these are all Minnesota players trying to hit the same line at the same position. You can only have so many forwards in a game at the same time. But you can see when there's individual spots, they're all hitting that line. So at 8.5 points, everything lines up for Gabby to keep that streak going. And all these stats are straight from Outlier. It's the easiest way to spot edges like this, look at the line movements, look at matchup data, etc. The link is in the description, and you can use code DIME to save when you sign up. Let's go to play 2. We have Ezra Stevens, higher than 5.5 rebounds. All right, let's go over the lines. Right away, we can see that PrizePicks has this favorite at -137, which means that it would be a goblin there. We can see that this is a large favorite on Hard Rock Bet, -240. Huge favorite at FanDuel at -260. And then we can see where Underdog has this at -334. Then we can see in her last 6 games, she's gone above this line 6 out of 10 times. Last 20, she's gone above this line 16 out of 20 for 80% hit rate, averaging 7. And then head-to-head. This season alone, you can say 100% rate. And then over the last 4 matchups, including 2 from last season, it's a 75% rate, going above this line 3 out of 4 times. Additionally, if we look at how Phoenix goes against, allows rebounds against forwards/centers of other teams, we can see that it does look like it's an unfavorable matchup, as we see here. But keep in mind, it says that she's a forward/center, so she kind of gets a little bit of a benefit here because she interchanges these positions, which allows for more opportunities for her. But we can also see this hit rate also gives us some benefits, especially against Phoenix. And then some of the insights. She has exceeded 6.5 rebounds in 13 of her last 16 games at home, averaging 8.1 in that span. And then in some previous games, the Phoenix have allowed 2 of the last 3 matchups to hit their lines. Aaliyah Boston hit it 1 game and then was short the second. And then Ezzy hit her line as well. And each time that those players have gone above or hit this line, they've gone pretty well above it. So again, we have Ezra Stevens going higher than 5.5 rebounds. All right, so before we get into that final pick, hit subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's slate, and grab that Betr promo with code DIME to start your bankroll with $30 free. And if you want my full card every single day, not just the free picks, hop into Winnable. Spots are filling up before the NFL season starts, where we also have the Founder deal, where you can get in for $30. So lock that in now. All right, last play for today. We have Kelsey Plum, higher than 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. All right, so we can look at her last 10, and she's cleared this in 7 of her last 10 games, averaging 30.5 with a median of 33. Then we can look at the last 20 as well, where she's also at that 70% rate, going above this line 14 out of 20 with an average of 30 and a median of 32. And then specifically against Phoenix, this is where we can look at the line and it gets a little scary, but let's dive into this head-to-head data a little bit more as well. So just this season, she's 50%. Overall, including last year. And if I'm not, and then if you also look at last year, she's on a different team. So that's why we want to kind of look at that with a little bit of indifference for these last three, because this is against when she was with the Aces, not with the Sparks. So if we look at just these two games, she's 50%. And you can see here, fairly close to hitting it, and then well above hitting it. Additionally, matchups, they rank 9th in points allowed to opposing players, Phoenix does, as well as 7th in rebounds allowed and 10th in assists allowed. So for points and assists, we can see that Outlier shows us this is a favorable matchup. And then for rebounds, we can see that this is a neutral matchup. And Plum is pretty aggressive, especially when it comes to like offensive rebounds on like her own missed shots, all those types of things, or defensive rebounds and then pushing the pace the next down the opposite side. Then we can look at additional data here where it shows us that she has exceeded 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists in 4 of her last 5 games. And we're looking at 27.5. Then we can see Phoenix kind of zigzags when it comes to allowing opposing players to hit their props. But we can also keep in mind that Kelsey Plum is one of the top point guards in the game. She's fairly consistent when it comes to scoring. And she is integral in the Sparks' success. And when she hits her marks, especially that 27.5 or even that 29.5 PRA, her team's going to win. And this is a major point in the season where every win matters. So I'm going with Plum higher than 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So recap for today. We have Gabby Williams higher than 8.5 points. Azra Stevens higher than 5.5 rebounds. And Kelsey Plum higher than 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And if you're rocking with me, drop your favorite pick of the day down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Picks and Roll community. Let's build that roll.